Hi, this is Alan Jeremy and welcome to yet another tutorial. So first of all, I would like to apologize for the delay in making a new tutorial. It's been a while and it's because I've been kind of busy and distracted. So yeah, that's it. And I would secondly like to apologize to the people who had requested tutorials, but I have not made a tutorial for them as yet. And the first person is Untitled, I think that's how it's pronounced. He wanted a tutorial on how to model a gun. Well, it's possible to create a tutorial series on how to model a gun, but there are so many YouTube videos that I have seen teaching people how to model a gun, but I will still consider creating a tutorial on how to model a gun. So the next person is Jason Ensife. I also hope that's how your name is pronounced. And he wanted a tutorial on how to sculpt. And that's exactly what I'm doing right now. It may sound unfair because he sent this 1 week ago and Untitled sent this 4 months ago, but that's life. Anyway, just kidding. But the gun modeling thing, I just think there are so many videos out there that teach how to model a gun. So I would suggest you first check them out. Then if you don't like them, I could create a tutorial for you for that. Okay, so open up Blender. I'm using version 2.69. As you can see, I think that was too fast. Version 2.69, and this was the latest stable release by the foundation. And to get started with our sculpting tutorial, I'm just going to add a subdivision surface to level 2 to this ball, and you just press Ctrl 2 or Ctrl and any number between 1 and 6 will add a subdivision equivalent to the number that you press Ctrl with. For example, Ctrl 1 is subdivision surface level 1, 2 is level 2, 3, 4, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to leave this at 2. Then I'm going to apply the modifier. I'm going to add a multi-resolution modifier, and I'm going to subdivide this 5 times, which is a lot, by the way. Then I don't know if I should apply it or not. But I won't apply it because it still works anyway when you're sculpting. And I probably don't want to make my computer lag due to the extremely high preview. Well, it's not so high, but you know what I'm saying. So I'm going to hide this widget by pressing Ctrl space. That just hides it, or you can just click on this widget thingy down here and it will hide it and show it. Control space also hides it or shows it. Just hiding it because it's destructive. Then next I'm going to hide the grid flow as well as this guidelines, axis guidelines. And I'm just going to find them under display, grid flow, then check that, and now we can work in peace. So I'm going to move this 3D cursor somewhere else. Okay, so the first thing we do is go into sculpt mode, and in this particular tutorial, I will be focusing entirely on the brushes and what they do and where they can be used. So the first one is the blob brush. The blob brush basically adds a spherical or a spherical dome geometry type of blobbed geometry that is exponential, and that means that the longer you keep hovering over it or sculpting over it, the more geometry it adds. And this can be particularly useful if you want to create stuff like words and stuff. That's not actually what, but I think I overdid it. But if you want to create stuff like watts, you can use this because it's exponential and they draw on top of each other quite well. And what I mean by that is you can like add another blob over here, another one here, and they blend in quite well. Well, that's just what I think. Anyway, that's that with that brush. I do not want to waste too much time. The next one is the brush. Called the brush. This is basically used to draw onto a surface, and it adds geometry, not exponentially, because if you do hold the mouse, left mouse button down and wait for it to rise, well, you wait for a really long time, forever that is, it just won't work. So it can be used for drawing geometry. Not drawing geometry, I don't know why I keep saying that. This is the second time I'm repeating this tutorial or remaking this tutorial, and I said that in the first time. I don't know why I just can't stop saying that, but anyway, it allows you to draw onto a surface and it raises the part in which you draw. So right now I'm drawing over this part and it's raising that surface. So it's safe to say that it raises surfaces in the direction in which you're moving your mouse. So that's it for that brush. The next one is clay. Clay also raises surfaces, but it does it in a more natural and organic way, and you probably can't see it quite well yet, but you can see right here there's a bulge here. This wasn't on the mesh, so I actually made this with a clay brush. If you couldn't see it, well, you can see a bigger bulge here, and the clay brush is particularly useful when you want to create muscles and add flesh to a character or any organic object you're creating. The draw brush feels very inorganic to me. I don't find it natural, but you can use it for stuff like hills or drawing onto surfaces that require you to raise or sink them. And speaking of which, about sinking, you can just change from add to subtract by clicking on any of them, and the active one is highlighted by a blue background. So when it's on subtract, it does the opposite of what it normally does, which is raise the height of something or surface. And there's a shortcut for this. The shortcut is holding down Control, and Control actually does the opposite of the currently selected option. So you can see the currently selected option or active option is add, and if I press Control, then draw over this part, then it makes this part, it deepens this part. I was looking for the right one. And when it's on subtract and I press Control, then it goes to the opposite temporarily, which is add. So it will add onto the surface. So that works with all brushes, and I thought it was worth mentioning. So to the next brush, the clay strips brush is just like the clay brush, but the difference is that the clay strip brush raises the surface just like the clay brush, but it does so in the direction in which you're moving the mouse. So the clay brush does it I'm not going to redo this again because I'm lazy. The clay brush just allows you to add or allows you to add more flesh. I'm going to call it flesh for now, assuming this is a character. Allows you to add more flesh generally and more all-roundedly or equally across the entire surface where you're painting, that is, across the entire surface without regard to which direction you're moving the mouse. So you can see it adds the geometry equally everywhere regardless to which direction I'm moving the mouse. The clay strips, on the other hand, I'll just undo that. Clay strips, on the other hand, only adds the geometry. It adds the geometry similarly, but in the direction that you're moving the mouse. So you can clearly tell that I was moving the mouse in this direction, as you can see. So that's another good brush, and it can be used for the same purpose as the clay brush. I guess you just have to figure it out between the clay strips and the clay brush, which one will work the best for the situation you're in, because I just can't teach you a standard way of working. You have to find what works best for you. The next one is the crease brush, and this one is used to I don't know how you say this in English, but sunken, so it's used to make oh god, what do you call this? It's used to deepen parts while pinching the deepened part towards the center of the brush. That sounds very complicated, but it's not. Let me just demonstrate what I mean. So I'm going to increase the strength here. Alternatively, I can press Shift F and move the mouse inwards, and moving it inwards makes the strength higher or more concentrated, and you can see this black spot there. That means it's more concentrated, and when you move it outwards, you make it less concentrated, and therefore the brush is weaker, or rather the influence is weaker. So for this brush, you can see it's I think that's too much. Let me just 0.5, use 0.5. So you can see what it does. I don't know if you can see the pinching effect, but it pinches the sunken part towards the center of the brush, and that's this part right here. As you can see, it's pulled the vertices together, or rather close to each other, and that's the pinching effect. And you can change how much it pinches by changing this value here. If I use that, you can see the pinch effect is quite strong, and most of the vertices have been pulled towards the center of the brush. And also move downwards or inwards. What I'm trying to say is this portion has what? I have no idea what I'm talking about, but you get the idea. So it just allows you to deepen these parts, whichever part you're drawing on, and it pinches sorry, and it pinches the vertices to the center of the vertices nearest to the brush, that is, to the center of the brush. Okay, so the next one is fill or deepen, and this one is used to fill surfaces, used to fill like holes and stuff. Like I'm just going to press Control, make a dip. Well, that's going to take a while since it's quite weak, so I'm just going to change this and create a deeper or more sunken part here. So the fill and or deepen is used to fill in this sunken part, and it tries to raise the geometry under the brush to match the geometry that is at the highest point. In this case, the highest point is this surface. and the lowest point is the inner part. So when the option is fill, it tries to make the sunken part match up with the highest part, which is again this side. So that's it for that brush. The flatten brush is quite self-explanatory. It just flattens certain areas or flattens the area in which you're painting. And the next one is the grab brush. I know that was quite fast, but the grab brush is used to grab a set of, I don't know if I should call them vertices or something, a set of vertices, and it's kind of like just using grab in edit mode or in object mode or whichever mode you are in. It just allows you to grab objects, quite self-explanatory, and you can use this to shape items. For example, a head. I know this doesn't look like a head, but you get the idea. I was just trying to demonstrate how it works. So inflate or deflate allows you to add circular to, raise the geometry in a circular way or in a dome-shaped way. In other words, you can get this kind of effect, and it's just basically a dome-shaped kind of geometry. I think that's the best way of explaining it. So it allows you to add spherical or dome-shaped shapes onto the surface in which you're painting or sculpting or drawing on, whichever term you prefer to use. Layer is the next brush. Now I usually have a difficult time explaining this one, but layer basically allows you to paint layers on top of layers. That's ugly. Let me just reduce the strength considerably. Well, it's too low. Yeah, that's okay. So it allows you to basically paint or draw layers onto a surface when you have let's say a constraint. And by constraint, I mean you have boundaries, you have limits, and you want to draw geometry or raise the surface only up to a certain height. And that's what this height option here or value is for. And you can see it's in centimeters. You can just change the units to the metric system from the scenes tab here, and by default it's none, and that's blender units, I presume. So by default I set mine to metric, just so it's easier to see the real world equivalent of something. So this one allows you to draw layers up to a certain height, after which the height, sorry about that, after it reaches that particular height, for example in this case 40 centimeters, it will not go higher than that until you paint a new layer on top of it. So as you can see, this is 30 centimeters. I can't really show you, but it is 30 centimeters, believe me. I mean 40 centimeters, not 30 centimeters. And if I wanted to change this, the layer's maximum height, I will do so by doing this, and it will keep on painting until it reaches 1 meter. And that's basically how layers work. Okay, so the next brush is mask. Well, Well, the mask brush allows you to mask out certain areas, as the name describes it or says, and this means that the masked out parts will not be affected by other sculpting brushes, and you just to access the sculpt the mask brush, you just go to this like options for brush options and select mask and start painting. So the black parts are the parts which are not going to be affected by any other sculpting brushes, and this can be quite useful if you want to focus on a certain area of a mesh without affecting other areas. For example, when sculpting a human head, and let's say you've sculpted everything but the nose and you want to focus entirely on the nose, you can actually mask out all the other areas so that no matter what you do, you can make no mistakes at all in affecting areas of the mesh that you do not want to affect. So with this done, I'll just select any of the other brushes. In this case, I'll select the draw brush, and to demonstrate the difference between this black or grayed out area and this normal area that is unmasked, which is masked, the black, in which case the masked area is the black side and the unmasked area is this other side. So to demonstrate how it works, I'm going to start painting from here to here. So using a draw brush, grease pencil. Sorry, I was looking for the one. Using the grease pencil, I'm going to show you how I'm going to be drawing this. Okay, sorry for my poor lines. I'm using a mouse. So this is the direction in which I am going to be sculpting from point A, which is here, to point B, which is here. Now note the difference. This is the masked area, which is not going to be affected by any brush, and this is the unmasked area, which is going to be affected normally. So I can shrink the brush by pressing F and moving the mouse inwards, which makes the brush smaller, or moving it outwards, which makes the brush bigger. So I'm going to make it smaller, and I'm going to start painting from here. As you can see, nothing is happening in the masked part, and when I get to the unmasked part, I can see the effect of the brush, as you can see. As you can see, only the part which is not masked, or the part that isn't masked, was affected. And this can be quite useful. As you can see, this almost looks like a nose. I'm so sure it's not a nose, but that's not what I was going for. But you can see that this can be quite useful if you want to focus on a particular area without affecting other areas. It's just basically a safety precaution, think of it that way. So I'm going to delete this grease pencil. Then I'm going to close this down, and I'm going to go to the next brush. First of all, I'm going to remove this mask, which also allows me to demonstrate how you can remove a mask. And you can simply do it in the same way as other brushes. You can change this to subtract, or hold down Control if add is selected, and just paint over the masked areas, and you can see they're getting back their life and becoming unmasked again. So I'm unmasking them. Well, I should have just masked a small area to demonstrate, but whatever. Yeah. Okay. So The next brush is the nudge brush, and the nudge brush just basically nudges, as the name says. And if you don't know what nudging is, you can go check a dictionary. Just kidding. But it allows you to kind of smoothly twist surfaces around the center. I don't think you can see it clearly. I think it's better if you do it somewhere like here. So it allows you to kind of twist stuff in a very smooth way around the center. And you could, I don't know where you could use this, but maybe if someone is being sucked into something, or I don't know. Or if you're making Toby from Naruto, well, maybe you could use it. I don't know how you would use it, but it just basically allows you to twist objects based on the center of this brush, the nudge brush, that is. And as you can see, it has no subtract or add, and that's just because the only thing you can do is just twist stuff with it. And there's another brush called twist, which is more inorganic to me. So just before we get to it, because it's the last brush, I'm just going to explain in advance that this is basically a smoother version, or more organic version of the twist brush, and it's just the same comparison as clay and brush, because clay is more organic and brush is less organic. So that's basically the difference. So pinch and magnify. Pinch and magnify does exactly what it says. It allows you to either pinch or magnify a set of vertices. And pinching means pulling together a certain set of vertices towards the center of this brush. So unlike the crease brush, which actually deepens an area, then pinches towards the center, this pinch brush allows you to have more control by just allowing you to pinch areas without having to deepen the area. And this can be quite useful in creating outlines or creating sharper definitions of certain areas, such as the lips, the outline of the lips. And as you can see, it's pulling the vertices to each other together. I think that's the best way of explaining it. So it pulls the vertices to the center, actually, not to each other. So it's pulling the vertices to the center of the brush. So that's it for pinch. And the next one is polish. Polish is just pretty much like flatten. I haven't really seen a really big difference, but I'm sure there's a difference. You can check for the difference if you're interested on Blender Wiki, because they have like full documentation for all these things. And the next one is the scrape brush. So I don't really use this much, the scrape one. Neither do I use the fill much, but I'm going to explain what it does anyway. So I'm going to take my draw brush, shrink it a bit by pressing F and moving the mouse inwards, and I'm going to just increase the size a bit, not that much, but yeah, that will work. And while it's raised, I can take the scrape brush, and this allows you to scrape off the raised surfaces. So it's like kind of like chiseling off the extra bit that you raised in carpentry or something. It's like leveling out stuff in a kind of smooth way. So you can see it's scraping off. It's like removing clay off this surface, assuming this was a clay sculpt. This is kind of like using a chisel to scrape off the extra bit that you got. I hope that was well explained. So the next one is the draw brush, and I've been confusing it with this brush. Well, technically, because the draw brush is pretty much also like the brush. They should give this a better name. Yeah, it just does basically the same thing. I've never really noticed a big difference. Well, is there a difference? I can't see anything. Okay, well, there's a difference, slight difference, I think. But I'm not really quite sure what the difference is. Well, I think you should just look this up. But I think, in my opinion, from what I've just observed, I never actually knew this. I thought they were actually about kind of the same thing, but they both do the same thing. They raise surfaces or sunken. I'm not sure what that word is. I've been looking for it the whole tutorial, and I'm so sure I'll get the word once I'm done with the tutorial when I don't need the word. But screw that. Sorry to the kids who are watching this. So I think the sculpt draw is a sharper version of the brush, because the brush has a smoother transition from low to high. Let me just undo this. So this is the brush. It has a smoother transition from low to high, which is this point counts as low and this point counts as high. Well, kinda. Well, this point is high, this point is low. The wrist pencil just looks weird in different positions just because I'm not drawing it accurately on the 3D surface. But I'm going to delete that and then press N to close that down. And the draw brush, whose shortcut by the way is D, is kinda, oh man, I just can't really tell the difference. So let me not misguide you. Just know the draw brush and the brush do pretty much the same thing, and the images look the same too. So I think they do the same thing. Well, they do the same thing, just know that. Kind of the same thing. The smooth brush is used for smoothing things out, and this basically just means creating a smoother transition between different objects and blending them into each other seamlessly. I'm not sure I use the word seamlessly right there, but as you can see, this lower part and this higher part can be easily blended to look like they were part of each other by using the smooth brush. And this is probably going to be the most used brush by many people, and it is among the most used brush by many people, and for that reason it has two shortcuts actually, whereby one shortcut is a full navigation shortcut to the smooth brush, and that's S, and it allows you to go to the smooth brush or to get the smooth brush, and I'm going to select clay or any other brush, and the other option is a temporary shortcut. By temporary I mean it only works as long as you're pressing down the button, and that's shift. So you press shift and hold it down while it's sculpting, and the smooth brush is activated while you're holding shift down and the left mouse button. I forgot to mention that. So when you release any of them, then you go back to the previous brush, and this is pretty useful because you will be sculpting stuff here, then you want to smooth it out, but immediately go back to the brush you were sculpting using, or sculpting on, and it can be quite useful. So you can hold down shift and left mouse button down while sculpting, and that will activate the smooth brush temporarily. Next one is a snake or hook brush, and this is a pretty useful one, and it's kind of an extrusion tool for sculpt mode. It's like the extrude option in normal modeling in edit mode, for example, and it allows you to add geometry by extruding a certain portion of geometry. So this actually creates a new set of geometry based on the point you extruded, and as you can see, they're small, but you can see them. I think I should just put this wire thing to allow you to see this better. So you can see there's this set of geometry here, faces and vertices and all, and if you want to, let's say, extrude, assuming you're, this is an example of a situation, by the way, assuming you're modeling a human starting from a sphere and you want to maybe get the neck or something, you can just extrude this portion, and as you can see, it looks like it's using this geometry, but it's actually created a new set of geometry and moved the set of geometry that was there here. It's just kind of like the extrude tool. That's just what you need to know, and it can be particularly useful if you're trying to maybe extrude certain portions of your mesh and create stuff like horns and well, for the hardcore sculptors or those who just like to start from a completely fresh fresh sphere. I don't know what's happening to my voice, but let me get a drink, I'll be back. Oh, okay. I guess I'm good now. So sorry about that. I guess I have gotten a bit rusty since I've not made a tutorial for a while. So that's it for the snake or hook brush. Snake hook. It's actually a snake hook. Snake hook brush. It's kind of an extrusion tool for sculpt mode. Next is the thumb brush, and the thumb brush basically simulates the movement of your thumb or hand, and I'm going to turn off wire right now because it's kind of a distraction. Simulates the movement of your hand or your thumb, and it basically just pulls vertices towards the direction in which you move the brush, and this is basically just like using a thumb. As you can see, it's pulling the vertices towards the direction that you're moving the mouse, and the direction you're moving the mouse is similar to the direction you're moving your thumb in real life. And finally, the last one, twist. So you probably already have an idea by now what it does, and what it does is basically twists the geometry around the center of the brush, and as you can see, it's less smooth. I think this is a perfect time to explain. It's less smooth than the nudge, and the nudge is much smoother and more organic than the twist brush. So the twist can be used to twist around the center of an object, no, of the geometry. So you get the idea. It's looking kind of creepy because of the limited geometry and stuff. As you can see right here, these are faces, actual faces that have been pulled out in inwards and all kinds of creepy ways, and just looks nasty, but it can be useful in some cases. It's just if you want to twist a surface and you do not want to focus on having an organic feel or feeling, and I'm sure this is because the brush strength is too high, but if you're not focusing on an organic feel for your sculpt, then feel free to use this one. Otherwise, I would suggest using the nudge brush. So thanks for watching. This is Alan Jeremy from Deflex Enterprises, and please don't forget to comment, rate, and subscribe. And thanks to all the subscribers who have subscribed to my channel. It's your support that keeps me making these videos. So thanks again, and goodbye.